Hello everybody. Today lesson is about watercolor technique. We are using of two kind of the watercolor. I just want you to know that there is not a lot of difference if you want to use of the some tubes or you want to use the bar ones that we have. You can use any of them. Because our class is mostly with the monochromatic and we are using of one color. I'm using of the just red for the rose, and I want to use and make it with the green. If you want to do it, you're more than welcome to use of two colors. I don't want regularly when we want to make it with the color, we are just using more color than just a red or just a green here. But again, because we are using of monochromatic, that's why that we are just using of these two colors. The difference between India ink and watercolor. We were using of India ink last time, and if you remember, we talked about that the India ink is permanent. Then if you're making a mistake, you have to just using of your rags and remove the pigments before it's getting dry. But for watercolor, is not that you can erase it like a pencil, but you can remove the pigments of watercolor better than ink. The next difference that we have between watercolor and ink, India ink that we use, that watercolor is more opaque than India ink. Then when we are using of the India ink, you can see it's very transparent, but with the watercolor it's less. So the technique that we are using for this rose is we want to control all of our pigments, not wet on wet that we did with the India ink. We want to control everything. We're gonna start from light to dark, then I'm gonna make everywhere light. I draw the outlines of the rose here, and don't make your lines dark, because the pencil is gonna have a track. They're gonna just somehow mix with water and make it a little muddy colors and grayish colors. Then be very careful with your lines. Make it, after you're using of the pencil, just make it very light. Erase your pencil lines. I'm not gonna do it here because I want you to see all the lines that we have here. Using of two container, one for just washing your brushes, and the second one when you need a very clear water for someone. The rose that I choose, I'm gonna post it for you. This is a red rose here. If you can find a rose with more contrast between the petals, it's the best. If you cannot see the contrast, you have to create it. The first thing that I'm doing is I'm using of the Carmen red here, and I make it very light, very light. Then the lightest that you can make, it's better. It has to be the lightest that you can see in your rose. Then I'm gonna come first and just cover all part of the rose that I see. Then this is the first step. We are again with the watercolor and ink and liquid. If you're starting with the lighter, it's better, because you always can make it darker, but if you make it dark, it's not very easy to get rid of all the darkness. Then I'm starting with the light everywhere. Remember always having a rag or tissue in your hands in case that you want to remove some part of the mistake that you have. You see that it's coming out of the line a little here or here. I don't care. I mostly it's a watercolor and some kind of this mistake, I like them. The other things that you have to look, after we make everywhere light, you can wait a few minutes until it's getting dry, and after that start with the medium part. I want to go around this rose with the creating a little light and dark. Then remember, the lightest part that I have is here. I have a light here, but because I want to make a contrast, then I'm gonna leave some part of the edges with more light, even it's getting more medium colors. But I want to first don't cover this part and leave them with the light that we have. For the next one, then I'm adding a little more of my watercolor and make it a little darker. Remember that always have one paper next to you to just try your colors. I think it's good. Then I'm gonna come and look at the medium part that I have, and I'm gonna make it the medium. Remember that this part gonna be dark, very darker. Then I can just continue with medium and later make it darker, or I can leave it just with the light that we have and back to it and make it darker. I like to go with the medium because I'm gonna have a better idea about the shape that I'm creating here. Again, from here is that you see here I'm using up the water, and with the water I want to make it just blend this dark to a little lighter area. Okay, then this is always the bottom part of your flower can be the darker part because of the shades that we have from the other petals, and it can be darker area. I'm not started blending yet, just a little of blending, then you can see how it's working with the watercolor. You can add water to it and blend it more, even it's getting dry. Leave the light part light see that I just add a darker value here, then you can see the contrast that we need here, or we need a little more here. But I want it's getting blend to the light, then just I'm making my brush wet and I will blend them together. I'm trying to get rid of the some of very sharp edges, and you can see that we can do it almost easily. So I'm almost done with the medium part. Just this part is that I have to take care of this. Again, be sure that you're gonna leave the light area light. And now is that I'm start to look at the shapes and remember that we are still on any things that it's a 3D, we have to create the illusion of 3D. Then even in your picture you cannot see dark and light and medium. You have to create this illusion. Then I'm making this part a little darker, then it's gonna be dark to light. So in the next step is that we are using of darker values. So with the darker values, I'm gonna change my brush. You see that most of the time I use of this brush for the light and dark. I use of the corner of this when I need to make you know, paint the smaller area, and for the large area I use of the whole part of this one. For the smaller, I'm using up the smaller round brush for the dark part. And okay, and you can use up any colors that you want. I think I mentioned it. It can be just monochromatic. Don't use up a lot of colors. We don't want to go to the color yet. But I'm gonna start with the everywhere that I see the dark. And then I'm using of the dark, and I'm coming with the center, starting with the center, you can use of the anyway, you can start from the all the edges and coming to the center. Okay, look at this part that I'm making it darker. I want to keep an edge here, and I'm not making it with the dark red. Just I'm gonna keep it white. Then I'm using of the clean water, and I'm using of it toward the edges. Then it's gonna blend like that. And working with your brush, and let's that you the pigments going wherever that you need them. I see that this part is very whiter than I want, and I'm just using of the water and bring a little pigment to this part. And now we are almost done with the rose. Uh, the most important part of the making the rose is be sure that you're making enough contrast around the petals. Then when you're looking at this, I don't want to say that you see one by one of the petals, but you can distinguish between some of them that are more important. And remember, for I think you know, for making your color, any color that you're using, lighter, you can use of white to make it lighter. So for the next one is that I want to just using of the green and making light and dark green, using of to for the stem and for the leaves that we have. So I just made it a little. Okay, my green is not dark enough. I change my green to the darker one. Again, we always can use of the other colors to make the colors darker. For making the green darker, we can use of red, and we can use of the brown. But as I told you, because I don't want to use a multicolor technique, I'm just want to show you that how we are using just one color. So, and in this part I made it a little wet, and I'm gonna continue on this. Some of them I don't want to have a line all over it. I just want to make some part of this like that. And you see this part, instead of using of light, I use of the dark. Then this is the reverse technique that we used here. Then I use of dark, and I made everywhere with the left side dark. You see that in the flowers we have more light in the right side, then it has to follow in the stem too. Then I'm using of the dark, and I'm using of just water to make it lighter here. I just want to, okay, I want to make dark to light. I used of the water here, and I'm coming with the green and start with the dark part. And again, I want to make it a little larger, and I don't want to fully paint it. I just leave it like that. I haven't started on this part because still the red is wet, and I don't want they're getting together. But even they're getting together, let's just try it. I think it's not getting very bad. You see that the red coming to the green part a little, but okay. But I like it. It should work. Sometimes it's, if your red is very wet and it's coming here, then you have to control it. You see that I'm using up more dark. As we talk about this part of the rose is darker because of the shadow of flower and petals here. Then I'm trying to don't go to the red part, and I'm using up dark to light. You can use of the same color for both uh, flower and stem. It's okay. Again, I made it just wet and come with the I don't want more than this. And again, control it wherever that you want. It's go. Then I want just a little here. I want to keep this with the just out pencil outlines. I think it's interesting. And coming with a little lighter and darker here. And maybe just here a little of the green, and a little here between these two leaves. Okay, then just we are back to the flowers. If you see some part of this needs to get darker or lighter, this is the time that we are not looking of the picture, we are just looking of our drawing, and we are starting the touch up. Then this is the part that you have to see what you need here, not what you see on your pictures. Then I like to have a little more dark, and I like that the dark's coming from this one. So when you're looking of this again, maybe for example here I see I want to have more contrast here, then back with your dark and make the contrast that you like here. Here between this and this, I think this part is flat, it doesn't have a good light and dark, so I'm gonna back to it and making more shadow here and a little more here. Then when it's in the center and I see that it's needs to make a round shape, then I have to come with more dark and medium and leave this part with more light. I want to make it lighter, then I'm gonna use of a water here just and remove a little of the pigments. Then it's gonna be more 3D. And again, when I'm looking up here, it still needs a little dark. So you can continue like that and make just more and more progress for your rose, and make it with the, again, 3 things. Just remember, we want to create contrast to see the petals better, but not everywhere. We want to have an illusion of 3D, and the same times we want to keep some of the lights. After I'm finishing here, I see I want to just make some of them a little darker, but I want to keep the edges with brighter light. Okay, that's it for today.